the darkness, hanging on your knees. That's why I gotta know what I am, what I need, and where I stand. 'Cause all I know is I answer to the truth. Hey, don't you get in my way. I don't care what they say. I just have to be me, individual. Tell me what I have to be. Anything I don't feel. All I wanna be is individual. You can make a road harder. Turn a man insane. Start a riot inside us. And the spirit in flames. That's why I gotta know what I am, what I need, and where I stand. 'Cause all I know is I answer to the truth. Hey, don't you get in my way. I don't care what they say. I just have to be me, individual. Tell me what I have to be. Anything I don't feel. All I wanna be is individual. Cause I just wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna be me. Yeah. Hey, don't you get in my way. I don't care what they say. I just have to be me, individual. Tell me what I have to be. Anything I don't feel. All I wanna be is individual.
Sebastian Job, Joshua Rogers, Diogo Pinto, and Jordan Caruso. Who wants their own chance to join these names? "34 drivers, just 6 races to make it count." This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series.
Well, once again, we are set for the start of an exciting contender series here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. And what better venue to start it all off than right here in Germany at Hockenheim. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Smith. Joining me here on commentary is Joshua Lee. And Josh, we've got 6 weeks of exciting competition to decide who's going to make it to that PESC series.
The Contender Series is always an exciting time of year because we're seeing those new faces coming into the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup or trying to qualify for the Super Cup for next year. But there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of drivers qualifying in from the qualifying series that happened a couple of months ago, a handful of drivers from the Super Cup and some drivers from elsewhere as well. I'm excited to see who we're going to see make their name here at Hockenheim for round number 1 of his 6-race stretch.
Yeah, if you're wondering how these drivers have got here to the Contender Series, the best of those that competed in the qualifying series, which happened, as you say, a couple of months ago, they get themselves into this championship. The bottom 15 from previous season of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup qualified for the series. As we look at the calendar, now the calendar here is quite a mixed bag of tracks. You've here at Hockenheim, then we've got Laguna Seca, Red Bull Ring, Road Atlanta, Long Beach, I think, is going to be the real curveball in this season. Then we end off back in Germany at the Nürburgring, Joshua. That's some real challenging tracks out there. Long Beach, as I say, could be that curveball.
Long Beach seems to be that red flag track that has been on the calendar before in the Contender Series and back for this season in 2023. That's where we can see a lot of the points flip and turn on their head going into the final round. That you mentioned, a very unique course in the Nürburgring, starting in Germany, ending in Germany with a trip to Austria and 3 trips to my home country, the United States.
Yeah, it's a very mixed bag going across the Atlantic a few times here this season. But let's take a little bit more of a closer look at where we are racing. Hockenheim in Germany for round number 1 of the Contender Series. It's 2.8 miles long, 17 turns. And, well, we've raced here in PESC as well last season. And, Joshua, what are some of the challenges that these drivers have got right here?
Well, if you start a season in the qualifying series, the Super Cup, or the Contender Series, you're more than likely starting at Hockenheimring, and it's a good starting track. The challenges are that tight hairpin, that tight turn 2. You have the complex, the arena sections, 2 of them in the final 2 sectors before you bleed back onto the front straightaway. But it's the start of the season. It's a track that you are going to start the season no matter where you are in Porsche Esports competition, and it's a tough one to get right. Bad foot. Starting off on a bad foot at the beginning of the season is going to be a way for these drivers to be stressed out for the next 5 weeks. You better be good at this track if you want an easy ride to the Super Cup.
You certainly do want that indeed. So drivers are going to be getting themselves set for today's competition. Let's have a look at how these drivers will go today. So up next is 8 minutes of qualifying. The drivers qualify out on track on their own. And once we've decided the grid, we then get a sprint race of 9 laps. Whoever wins that, well, they'll have to start from 8th place in the main race, because the top 8 finishers from the sprint race, they get inverted for the grid for the main race. Doubling length in 18 laps for that main race. But we are getting ourselves set for qualifying here, and preparation, tyre preparation, Josh, is going to be key to these drivers being able to get a good qualifying lap.
have to make sure those tires are warmed up, and I don't think that's exactly what Kevin Nielsen was looking to do in the 3. Locks up those rear wheels going through turn number 2, but every driver now running out on the track, trying to get those tires warmed up best they can. As we look at the number 81, Quinton Violate, Apex Racing Team colors on the side of that car. One of the drivers that was relegated from this season of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Paul, very important that he gets a good start to the season to try and stay in the Super Cup for another year in 2024.
Yeah, some of those drivers that competed last season that are having to take part in this contender season. Kevin Nielsen, Julian Sonnen, Simone Emilia Marcheno, Quentin Violate, as you just mentioned, Matthias Stuckbeck, Alexei Nesov, Bobby Zelensky, Sam Skyter, and also Bryn Collins. They're all having to compete in this contender series to be able to qualify themselves for this championship for next year. Well, there's going to be some new names come through, whatever happens here in this series into the 2024 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. And it's always good to get that mix of new drivers in with those that are well established. Heading through towards the end of the lap, on their first warm-up lap, Parker White, with one of those new names in the Apex Racing team. You can see him there from Maine, just preparing himself, ready for that opening qualifying lap.
Qualified in from the qualifying series, and of course people familiar with iRacing competition will be very familiar with the Parker White name. He's wearing his NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series jersey as he gets started on this first lap. But you mentioned new names, Paul. They're new to us, trying to get used to the cars they're driving, trying to get used to the racing style up here in the broadcast booth. But these new drivers, including Parker White, who are on board with now, have to get used to everybody else in the grid. They don't really know how many of these new drivers are going to race when it comes to the feature race or the sprint race. So they have to get used to racing styles and just overall aggression styles as well throughout these next couple of rounds.
And the pressure is really on for these drivers because they only get one lap to set themselves a qualifying time. It's one lap, hot lap qualifying here. If you make a mistake, if you get an off-track penalty here, that's going to be you at the back of the grid here, Josh. The pressure is really on these drivers now.
Only one shot to get it right, and if they don't get it right, like you mentioned, Paul, they're starting way down at the back of the order in the sprint, which has proved to be a very difficult place to try and make up ground. Everybody's already aggressive in the sprint race, with it being half the distance of the main race. Very difficult to make moves happen, but right now, on board with the 95 Apex Racing Team colors of Parker White, looking good in this qualifying lap of his, using all the track limits he possibly can. That off track, if he dips into the grass, could lead to that time being disallowed. But right now, we look at the stopwatch, 125 as he works his way through the final couple of corners, and the first couple of times are going to start to work their way in.
They certainly are, as they start appearing on the left-hand side of your screen right now. Kevin Nielsen, who competed in Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup last season. He's currently heading the standings. Parker White was third briefly, but Alexei Nesov got himself into second now. Bryn Collins up into third place in qualifying. Last few cars are going to be coming across the line very shortly indeed to set themselves their lap times. And you look at how close this field is lap time wise. Down to 23rd is covered by 0.55 of a second. Nielsen's still there at the top of the standings. Just a couple more cars to go. This is car number 5. This is Lucas Delgard going through the final two corners, through the Sud curve and heading towards the checkered flag. Will he get himself up there towards the front of the field? Crosses the line. The answer is no. Down there in 26 for his lap time. Just two more cars out on track. That's Luke McEwen, who's going to come across the line, and also Jakub Majewski as well. McEwen, he finishes his lap and gets himself into the top 10. Here's Majewski then from Poland across the line. Where's he going to come? And the answer is 19th. So that's going to be all the lap time set. Two drivers did not set a lap time there, Joshua.
Pedro de Oliveira looks like he had an issue on his lap. He towed it back to the pit lane. Oscar Pai completed his lap, but an incident point leads to him not being able to have that time be allowed. But Paul, we'll look at how everybody's going to earn points, and it starts right here in qualifying. 10 points to our pole sitter, Kevin Nielsen, and top 5 will earn points, but then sprint race, 25 points up for grabs. Main race, 50 points up for grabs. Round number 1 has a lot of points on the line for the drivers that are going to be running up front.
Yeah, absolutely. The points for the main race, if you win the main race, are worth double what you do if you win the sprint race. So, yes, the sprint race and qualifying are important to help you towards your championship, but those drivers really do want to get themselves some big points in the main races. That's where the big prizes are in terms of championship points. In the field, 30 of the 32 cars who set a lap time in qualifying covered by 1.09 of a second. So that shows you just how close this grid is. 12 thousandths of a second separated Kevin Nielsen and Alexei Nesov in that one. So that was the qualifying and the points here as to how they earned that. Here's your drivers, though, that are competing here today, all giving us their view and their point of view, Josh. And I mean, what are these drivers going to be feeling now for the next minute and a half?
They're going to be feeling a little bit of stress. Obviously, it's just that stopwatch now for qualifying that is just ticking its way down, just waiting to get onto that standing start. But you can't really do anything else. I mean, before you got in the session, you could run laps with your teammates. You could run in a test drive to get used to the track, get used to the car. Then you could run in the 18 minutes of practice we had leading up to qualifying. Now you just have to sit and wait for gridding to open. So it's just sitting there. Only your thoughts. Maybe they're running through their strategy. Maybe their team's talking to them about what they're going to work on in this race. But drivers just have to sit there and waiting on that green grid button to show.
Yeah, certainly. So these drivers are preparing themselves for the start of that race. We're preparing ourselves here for the start of the race as well. Pleasure to have you all along, joining us here wherever you are watching us. And this 6 rounds of the championship are going to be some real intense racing coming up, because every race is going to matter here, isn't it, in the series?
Every race is important. There's no race that you can just kind of lay off and not really do much in. You need to get all the maximum points, because it's only 6 rounds, like you mentioned, Paul, but they're going to go away very, very quick. And there's challenging tracks on the horizon as well. Laguna Seca next week. Then we go to Austria at the Red Bull Ring. Just like that, very quickly, we're back over into Long Beach and into Nürburgring for the final 2 rounds of the campaign. There is a lot on the line and not a lot of time to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the drivers will have had themselves prepared and set for the start of this opening sprint race, and it is Kevin Nielsen who's sharing the front row of the grid with Alexei Nesov, Bryn Collins and Quentin Violate row 2 with Parker White and Lemonak on row number 3. Row number 4 of the grid is Matty Sippel and Sam Keiter with Luke McEwen and Joby Stewart on row number 5. Row 6, Simone Manero Marcheno and Carlos Penelosa, the 2 teammates together on row 6. 7th row, Julian Sonin and Matthias Stuckback with Michael Janney and Rasmus Christensen on row number 8. Row 9, Chris Lulham and Dino Lombardi. 10th row of the grid is Jakub Maczewski and Will Chadwick with Bobby Zelensky and Malfi Roma on row number 11. Rafael Silva and Xander Reed share row number 12. 13th row of the grid, Bernardo Ferreira and Matthias Noja, and then it's Josh Thompson and Lucas Dalgard on row 14. The 15th row, Antoine Lacharit and Victor Miranda. Final row of the grid, Oscar Pai and Pedro de Oliveira. 32 drivers will be taking to the grid for the start of this race. We've got about 25 seconds. What's key for the drivers in this opening one? Just bank some points to start with?
I think that's honestly what a lot of drivers need to look to do, because if they bank a lot of points in this first round, okay, maybe they have a weak track that they have later on in the calendar. They can then use this race as a good starting point to gain a lot of points. But I think if you're the drivers up front, Kevin Nielsen, Alexei Nesov, Bryn Collins, just try and get it into victory lane. Get started off on the right foot. Momentum is huge in motorsports, Paul. no better momentum than going out and winning the first sprint race or the main race in the first round of action.
Green flag will be dropped, and we are underway then for the opening sprint race of the Contender Series, heading towards turn number 1. And it is Kevin Nielsen who leads, but Bryn Collins has got a great start in towards turn number 1. We've got a car off in the wall on the right there as we carry on towards that hairpin at turn number 2. Through they all go. Are they going to make it all clean, nice and through as they head on through turn 3 and 4, going through the parabolic at 5, and then heading towards the hairpin at turn number 6. And already Bryn Collins is trying to move forward at the front of the field, but Kevin Nielsen's going to fight that one. To the outside is Collins. Can he hang on to it? He can get onto the power, but no, Nielsen's going to crowd him a little bit. Everybody else working the way through, 2-3 wide through the hairpin. And back up to speed. They've got a spinner on the corner exit. I think it was Victor Miranda who we saw around, but into the arena, the first of the 2 arena sections now. And it's still together, close at the front. Nielsen, Collins, Nessov, Violate, Parker White and Sam Keiter round out the top 6 as we go into the stadium section now, this historic part of the circuit, heading towards Sachs Curve for the first time, onto the brakes, into this cambered hairpin, and then it's on the power, go through the little chicane, head towards the Sud Curve at the end of the lap. But Josh, opening lap already, we've had a couple of cars have issues out there.
Matty Sipola ended up into the outside wall down in 31st now. That was on the opening corner of the race. Victor Miranda, you were right, Paul, was the one that got turned around off of the hairpin that last time by. An issue further back as well with Raymer, but up front, Bryn Collins is all over the back bumper of Kevin Nielsen. How quickly is he looking to get this move done? We already saw him making moves, but I think for third place, Alexei Nessov is looking a little bit more aggressive than Bryn Collins for second place. Side by side for the race lead as they work their way back to the hairpin. We know this is a problem area on the track, Paul. Who's going to outbrake himself?
Well, they're going down through the parabolica. There's a little bit of bump drafting going from Nielsen. Bryn Collins is having to go defensive to the inside. There's Nessov to the outside. Nielsen in the middle. Don't squeeze each other into each other. Well, Violate is trying to take advantage of the inside line there. Not a place to be gained, though, for him. So it is Collins from Nielsen, from Nessov, Violate, White, Keiter, all together. McEwen's at the back of this queue as well. There's a little bit of a gap back to Carlos Fenalosa, with Julian Sonin and Lemonak rounding out the top 10. As they come through the right turn at turn number 10, heading back towards that stadium section. This is more single file through here, but you want to be setting yourself up for the run out of turn number 1 really at Nord Curve, and get that run in towards turn number 2. That's one of your key overtaking spots here, Josh. But right now, Bryn Collins, all he's focusing on now is trying to run away from this lot.
Well, one lap ago, coming to the end of lap number 1, Bryn Collins was doing exactly what you just said, Paul. Through the last couple of sectors, setting up his run off of this straightaway, off of turn number 1 in the Nord Curve to go down into turn number 2. That's what Alexei Nessov and Kevin Nielsen need to be doing from 2nd and 3rd right now. Here's the run down this straightaway. They're not going to be close enough to make any moves yet unless they're aggressive on the brakes, and not that time into turn number 2 for either Nielsen nor Nessov. But look at how much they are wrangling those wheels. These Porsches are very difficult to wheel around the Hockenheimring. You need to do it with finesse. You need to do it quickly in order to get the win. And Bryn Collins right now doing it the best out of anybody, sitting at the front into the hairpin. Nobody going to be too late on the brakes this time as everybody stays single file.
As they go the old check up through the middle of the hairpin, and out they go then. So it's as you were at the front of the field. Don't forget the 8th place is going to be the reverse grid pole position. That's currently Carlos Fenalosa who's in that spot ahead of Julian Sonin. So Fenalosa and Sonin, a lot of experience in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. In fact, if you look in this top 10, the majority of those drivers are drivers who have previously raced in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. But let's have a look back then, Josh, at lap number 1 and see what happened to Sipola.
Goes to the inside. That's the number 69, Prismaslav Lemonak there on the inside. Slight contact with Matty Sipola, and that sent him right into the green tire barrier. And unfortunately, just nothing Matty Sipola in the 11 could really do there, Paul. He was just kind of along for the ride after that contact. Hits the wall, and unfortunately that is race done for Matty Sipola. He's still he's in the pit lane, just towed back there. He's 3 laps down now. As we take a look back, P16 with Jakub Masieski with Michael Janney for P16, the 29 and 92.
Yeah, Janney's he's looking in to that 16th place. Majewski has got that 16th place though. Chris Lulham ahead of them as well. And so drivers just getting themselves in that line, in that groove right now. We're on lap 4 of 9, so we're almost at the halfway point of this race. And you can see just everybody's just spread out just that little bit. It's enough that drivers can't really make a move into the hairpin right now. But it's also about who looks after their tyres, because track conditions, it's not too bad, 27 degrees Celsius. So it's not too bad for those drivers to push those tyres here.
And I can see a good amount of drivers trying to push. They're trying to be aggressive, but you don't want to get too aggressive, especially here in the sprint. Yes, it is less laps. You look at the lap counter going down. Yeah, 6 laps to go. You want to be more aggressive. You got to remember, Paul, the points in the sprint race are about half of what they'll be in the main race. You save your stuff, you get some solid points out of here in the sprint. You don't need to be so aggressive to get every point possible. Maybe if you're Luke McCowan, if you're Fenalosa, if you're these drivers around P10 right now, maybe you'll be a little bit more aggressive. But if you're inside the top 8, I say ride around, do what you can, get those solid points for a top 8 in the sprint, and then work your way back up through the field in the main.
As we go across the line for another lap into the second half of this race, it is Bryn Collins who leads this one then, ahead of Kevin Nielsen. Alexei Nesov still in 3rd place. We've got this race though into turn number 2, and that's Stuart barging his way past there on Lemonak, and Stuckbeck is going to try and follow him through that gap. None forthcoming, and here comes Dino Lombardi trying to get involved in all of this. Is a bit of rubbing, a bit of contact there. Dino's trying to force his way through. He's getting boxed in there into the hairpin, onto the brakes, down the inside. Can we get the move done cleanly? Oh, more contact between the two of them, and Lombardi's going to say, thank you very much, chaps. I'll come alongside, make it 3 wide. Oh, this is all getting a bit close and a bit physical out there in the bottom of your top, just outside of your top 10, into the Mercedes arena, and again running wide there, 3 wide, almost contact between them, but no, they carry on, and it is Stuckbeck then who's in 12th place, but 3 wide again. Oh my goodness, Lombardi's not giving this one up without a fight. Down the inside into the arena, more rubbing of paint going on. Josh, welcome to the Contender Series, everybody.
Chris Lulham in that Team Redline Porsche wants those positions, and he has been aggressive this entire lap. It has worked. He has worked his way up to P14, but he did it middle 3 wide, dive bomb moves, and look at the calmness on the face. He was laying back. I think the English number 20 was getting aggressive, and he was getting a little bit nervous about it. But now he sees open track in front of him, trying to catch back up to the Altus Esports number 13, Adino Lombardi. There's a little bit more calm on the face of Chris Lulham now in the 20.
Well, all that battling has actually allowed there to be a bit of a gap form in front of it. You can see the queue of cars behind now, from behind Lemonak, heading towards the Parabolica once again. Now he's got Majewski there, he's got Janney, he's got Christensen. Will Chadwick is getting involved there, invitational driver from the Porsche Carrera Cup of Great Britain Esports Series. There's a dive from one of your... Oh dear, there's contact on Josh Thompson from Pi. Oh, well, that's a bit of a mess. That was a bit of a mess, was that one. And yeah, Josh Thompson drops down to 30th place now from that contact from Pi.
The Team Redline 70 goes around in the hairpin, and there's still some argy-bargy further back, but Paul, remember back to qualifying, how close those times were. Everybody was about within a second from the top to the bottom of the field for the drivers that put down laps in qualifying. Well, that kind of bleeds into the race. Maybe not everybody's running identical lap times. Everybody's running pretty close together in lap times, but it leads to what we're seeing. Everybody lining up, running very similar speed to each other as we go on board with Jakub Miczeski, the Polish driver in the number 29. But that leads to drivers just taking advantage of mistakes because everybody's so close in speed. You can't make the passes like you would. Oh, let me pass this slower car that's in front of me. I'm faster. You're not going to run into very many cars in whether it's the Contender Series or the Super Cup for Porsche Tag Heuer Esports. You need to rely on other drivers making mistakes, then to capitalize on it. That's what we saw from the 20. That's what we saw in that entire battle last time through this hairpin.
The pressure ramps up at each stage. The qualifying series was pressure enough for the drivers just to get qualified for this, the Contender Series. It ramps up. There's a move for the third place of Quentin Violate and Alexei Nesov. So Nesov is potentially losing that place, although he's not going to give this one up without a fight. These are two drivers who know each other from last year's Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Nesov to the inside. Violate's now got the inside for the next two corners and more contact out there. Violate cuts across the inside of turn number 10. He carries on, but he's got a slow down penalty and a number of cars are coming through. Wow, this is all getting a bit rough and ready out there, but well, that's now third place with a big gap to the leaders. But it's Bryn Collins at the front. The brother of Charlie Collins ahead of Kevin Nielsen. Alexei Nesov still hangs on to that third place after that contact.
And there is on board with Alexei Nesov. There's on board with Parker White in the number 95 for Apex Racing Team. That was contact between a Urano car and an Apex car. And you mentioned, Paul, drivers joining that fight then with that mistake. Guess who they were? More Apex cars, more Urano cars, as they all sit third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh in this line. Carlos Fenalosa in the 9 for Altus Esports is trying to catch up to this line, but we're back to that, what we just mentioned, Paul, waiting for other drivers to make mistakes. I think right now Sam Kiter might be under pressure from Luke McCowan. This might be a move being set up into the hairpin for the 22.
As we are on the penultimate lap of this opening sprint race, McEwen's looking to the inside. No, he's having to look to the outside now. And Sam Kiter under pressure. McEwen's a quick driver. I've commentated on him in a few series, but he's now got his teammate Violate trying to make some moves on him. Those two, I don't know if I'd be wanting to fight each other right now, because with 2 laps to go, you're actually not in a bad starting place for the main race.
They're not at all. They're 7th right now, 6th and 5th among those 3 drivers. As Carlos Fenalosa is on that invert pole position right now. He's got Julian Soinen trying to take that away behind him, but white flag this time by Paul. I don't think I'm getting that aggressive if I'm either the 2 Urano cars, Nesov or Kiter, or the 3 Apex cars, White, McCowan, and Violate. Bryn Collins is looking at starting P8 in the main, but he's also looking at the first major points of the season, and so far, looking at a solid points day with the points that he earned in qualifying. He's looking to earn a good bit more here in the sprint as we take the white flag.
Yeah, just one more lap for the drivers here in the opening sprint race. Then it is Bryn Collins with a second. 1 second between him and Kevin Nielsen. I think those two don't need to worry too much. Just keep it on the grey stuff. It's this race here for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's Kiter, McEwen, Violate, Fenalosa in the Altus car just at the back of shot. He's got that provisional pole position for the main race. Early defensive move from the driver of Kiter in the Urano car, and the Apex car of Luke McEwen with damage to the front of his car. You can tell that he's been getting involved in things and just getting a little bit of contact as they go through. There's turn number 7 into the arena onto the brakes. This is an overtaking opportunity into here, but you've got to be brave. And no, they're staying as they are. There's moves further back though, because Marciano's moved ahead of Sonin. He's moved up into 9th place as Simone Maria Marciano, the Italian. But into the stadium section. Your race leader of Bryn Collins. He's just got a few more corners to go. And the young man from Wales is going to be seeing potentially the checkered flag. 2 more corners. He's got to make it through Sud Curve. Don't make a mistake here. And Bryn Collins can look forward. He can see the checkered flag, a little bit of a wave. He's happy. He also knows we're watching. And he gets the win here in the sprint race of the Contender Series opener. Across the line come the rest of them. Fenelursa does finish in 8th place, so he'll be starting in that inverted grid pole position. But Josh, wow, action aplenty in this opening race of the season. It's what we expected, isn't it?
That's exactly what I expected from the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series at the Hockenheimring. But as we get ready for race number 2, Paul, here's those results with Bryn Collins sitting at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, Bryn Collins ahead of Kevin Nielsen by 1.3 seconds. Nessoff, White, Keitet, McEwen, Violate in the top 7. Carlos Fenelursa will get the reverse grid pole position in 8th place. Just missing out his teammate Simone Maria Marchena and Joby Stewart for Altus Esports in top 10. Julian Sonnen ahead of Stuckbeck, Lombardi, Lulham, who we saw getting involved in those scraps in the middle of the race, Machewski, Chadwick, Christensen, Laminek, Jani and Bobby Zelensky down in 20th place. Last of the point scorers in that sprint race. Oscar Pai misses out on points in 21st. Ferreira, Oliveira, Miranda, Reed, Dalgard, Laucherite, Silva, Thompson and Roma is top 30. And then just one driver that did not finish, Matti Sipola, and there was one driver who did not take the start, which is Matthias Noja. So, here we go then, and we're going to be hearing from your sprint race winner. Josh, take it away with Bryn Collins.
Well, Bryn, what a run for you in the first sprint race of the season. Started off of the front row, and then you end up grabbing that win. How was that race from your perspective down there?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty awesome. You know, I was just trying to get in the lead at the start of the race because I knew I got good pace in the first couple of laps. So, yeah, it went pretty much perfectly to plan. You know, I missed 3 days in preparation, driving to Germany for Charlie to drop him off with the boys in Germany. But yeah, the race went perfect. I was very happy with it.
Happy with the pace going into this first race. Now, coming into this series, was there a little bit of stress coming into this season in the Contender Series, getting relegated from the Super Cup and having to not really start from square one, but at least be one step closer to starting from square one if you end up back in the qualifying series?
Yeah, if anything, it's just kind of built me up just to pure dominate and just do all this stuff because it was a lot of hard work, a lot of tough hours in the sim, you know, for the qualifiers. So I'm ready to put 110% in and just do the best I can. So yeah. Mentioned
that teamwork and that preparation. You were a lone Coanda car up against a good amount of different teams up in the top 5, top 10. What does it mean to you to be representing Coanda and be working with the guys, working with your teammates to get ready for each of these rounds of the Contender Series? And how important is that to your success here in the sprint?
I mean, it's awesome that I've been given the opportunity to drive this team. And, you know, happy with obviously my teammates. They're all awesome guys and we'll put in the work behind the scenes. So, yeah, perfect.
Moving forward into the main race as well. You're going to be starting back in P8. Can you make your way up to the front?
Yeah, I mean, we'll give it a shot. It's going to be tough, but hopefully I can make my way up to the front and maybe grab another victory. So,
good luck in the main, Bryn. Congratulations on your sprint race win.
Thank you very much.
Good to hear from the Coanda driver, Paul, as we get ready for the main race tonight.
Yeah, and he still owes me a donut as well, does Bryn? So that's your race winner. Here's some highlights then from the opening race of this season. And don't forget as well, if you do want to, if you're seeing this and thinking, wow, I want to try out iRacing, well, right now, there is 40% off of all new memberships on iRacing. Check out iRacing.com for details of how to start your iRacing career. And don't forget, every day is a race day on iRacing. As we look at those highlights, Matti Sipola with that big damage on the opening of the race. And then those drivers, they just kept themselves where they were really out there.
Yeah, and this is only the first sprint race of the season. We've got a main race coming up tonight, and we've got an entire season of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. If you want more information on the rules, the schedule, points after this first round, and follow them throughout the entirety of the Contender Series, you can head to iRacing.com/PESC/Contender, and there's also information there on how to work your way up the ladder and into the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. You can race these exact cars right now. As Paul just mentioned, 40% off new memberships. Get on iRacing, get in these 992 Cup cars, and maybe you could be the next face of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
I see a former champion of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup in the Twitch chat. So hello to Diogo. Good to see you, and good to see everybody watching this broadcast. Tremendous excitement and energy from the field in this opening race. 32 cars, don't forget. And this is how the points break down. The first sprint race are done now. Those points are set. Now it's the top 25 that score themselves points. But crucially, the winner gets double the points that they would have done if they won the sprint race. So this is where the big points are paid in terms of this format of racing. But with that, we are going to be having a look at our grid, and it is Carlos Fenolosa and Quentin Violate sharing the front row with Luke McEwen and Sam Keiter on row number 2. Row 3 is Parker White and Alexei Nesov. It's Kevin Nielsen, Bryn Collins, you race 1 winner on row number 4. Then the rest start where they finished. Marceno, Stewart, Sonnen and Stuckbeck. Row 7 for Lombardi, Lillum, Machevsky and Chadwick on row number 8. Christensen and Lemonak on row number 9. Marcajani, Zelensky, Pai and Ferrara round out row number 11 with row 12 of Oliveira and Miranda. Last few rows of the grid of Reed, Dalgard, Loscherite and Silva with Josh Thompson, Maltha Roma on row 15. Matisipula and Noya rounding out the 16 rows of the grid here today. So we've got about 50 seconds before the start of this race. This is the format then. We see that top 8 from the sprint race inverted for the main race. Josh, what are you expecting from that top 8? Are we going to be getting a bit more excitement than we saw in the first race? Is that possible?
I don't know how possible it's going to be, but I do know that the drivers that are going to be starting on the front row, first 2 rows, have faster drivers behind them. And there's also a lot of drivers that were not within that invert that are outside the top 8. They're still looking for some solid points on the night. This is the main race. A lot more points on the line, as we just talked about, Paul. If you're going to be aggressive at all tonight, this is the time to be aggressive.
It's Paul Smith and Joshua Lee here for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. It's the main race here at the Hockenheimring. Drivers looking towards the starter's gantry, getting the revs rise. Green flag, we're underway for action. It's not a good start from Fenolosa on pole position. He bogs down. He gets swarmed by Violate, Cartert and McEwen in towards turn number 1. This smoke gone off into the tyre barriers. We'll have to find out who that was later as we go towards turn number 2 though. We've got close action outside the top 5 because they're scrapping away into turn number 2. And, well, look at that. 2, 3 wide out of turn 2. And Pai's around. He's held it in a half a straight line as we head through the Parabolica towards the hairpin for the first time in this main race. Cold tyres and brakes. That the drivers have got to remember. There's a late break in Alta's car and it wipes out Alexei Nesov. Oh, there's carnage down at the hairpin, and this unfortunately is what we feared as there's 7 wide on corner exit at the hairpin. It was always going to be chaos there, Josh.
That did not work out. All those drivers were looking, and that was a lot of carnage on the first lap. But at the front, Quinton Vialate has said thank you very much. He's pulling away to try and get a good gap for the race lead as Lolum and Soinen go side by side, middle of the pack. And you can see the blocking already coming into effect in the back of this field. Everybody looking for as many points as they can get. One position isn't just 1 point, Paul. It could mean 2, it could mean 5 in some cases.
You would think that this was the last lap of the last race of the season and everyone had an opportunity of getting qualified. This is crazy to start the season off here, but it is. Vialate at the front with McEwen and White. That's a 1-2-3 for Apex Racing. They'll be delighted with that, the Apex Racing team at their base down in Corby. They've got a fantastic setup down there, and it's certainly working out for the team. But Kevin Nielsen, don't forget, started pole position for the sprint race. He's 4th place right now. He's got a lot of experience in the series, as well as Vialate at the front. McEwen and White, they're the unknowns here in this series.
And at the front right now, you mentioned Kevin Nielsen in the 3, running in that 4th spot. He's already gained 3 spots from where he began this race in P7. It was a 2nd place finish for him in the sprint, knocks him down to P7 as a starting spot here for the main. He's got speed, he knows how to work with it. He just needs to gain time on these front 3 Apex cars. And oh, by the way, past the front 3 Apex cars, it is going to be all defense from White and McEwen from here on out. I would have to think, Paul, you don't want to be too aggressive on your teammate. You also don't want to run the risk of taking out your teammate. Speaking of teammates, here's 2 Altus Esports drivers running side by side. That's Dino Lombardi and Job Stewart.
Yeah, those 2 together in 8th and 9th place. Bobby Zelensky, well, he's really been able to take advantage of all of the shenanigans that have happened in this opening of the race, because he's gained 10 places right now, from 20th to 10th for Bobby Zelensky. I can tell you, your sprint race winner, Bryn Collins, he's lost out in all of that, down to 16th place. So it's going to be difficult for him to be able to move on and be able to get the win like he promised us. Sam Kiter, Simone Maria Marchena and Oscar Pai are all in the pits, and they're all going to be out of this race. Well, the leaders all together, and the 5 of them just in a queue. We're in a holding pattern right now, and this is what we're going to find, Josh, is through this early stages, drivers to just get themselves settled into position and then get in the queue. But let's have a look back then at what happened on that opening lap.
This was absolutely insane into this first corner. There was the contact that sent Sam Kiter off and into the tire barrier. That also sent the 77 of Simone Maria Marcheno off the track. 3 wide into turn number 2. That led to even more beating and banging, door slamming in the back. But then going into this hairpin, Paul, it was just absolute carnage. It was everybody going for as many positions as they could get, as much real estate as they could find on the track, which lap number 1 into the hairpin honestly is the best opportunity to do it. I just think a lot of drivers maybe had the same idea as there's an Altus car going bottom of 3 wide, contact with Nessov, and that was Simone Maria Marcheno again. And there's the 7 wide you talked about, Paul. 2 cars off to the top, 1 car in the grass on the bottom, and 4 sitting on the gray stuff in the middle of the track.
Yeah, Marcheno had something similar happen at the start of this year's Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. So it's a very similar feeling for the young Italian as he was facing the wrong way at the hairpin there. So it's still the 3 Apex cars at the front of your field at the start of lap number 4. Kevin Nielsen's just in a holding pattern right now. Penalosa, it was an awful start, and I think that's really what kicked it all off for Sam Kiter. Kiter into that turn number 1 had to hit that inside curb and settled his car and set him to the wall.
Right now at this lead battle, I just keep watching Luke McEwen, and he's getting so close to the front bumper of Quinton Vialate in front of him, Paul, but I gotta think he cannot be too aggressive. Yes, he's got Parker White behind, but that's another teammate. They've got Kevin Nielsen, but it's 1 car versus 3. Even if you add Fenalosa in 5th, that's 2 against 3. 3 teammates versus 2 drivers that are not, unless Stockback can catch up and join Kevin Nielsen in this lead battle. It just seems like the Apex cars really don't need to do a whole lot, but is Luke McCowan wanting 5 extra points at the start of the Contender Series? It was already a solid finish from him in the sprint. I don't think he really needs those points that much.
Jakub Majewski, it's worth pointing out, gained 8 places. He's up in 7th place, so good recovery after his opening race. Didn't get him too many points. We're looking further back, though. Victor Miranda, another driver who's gained 10 places in this race, as Bryn Collins makes the move on Will Chadwick. So Chadwick in that Heuer car just dropping back in the field, and yeah, he's just not able to compete with the speed of Bryn. So Bryn's trying to do a recovery. He's gained 1 place back out of his loss of positions. He's got to get all the way back to 8th before he gets back to where he was at the start of the race. So Collins, it's all about a recovery drive here, but these drivers getting themselves settled down now. Julian Sonin, he's currently running in that is 12th place, so definitely going well for him. Unfortunately, Josh, not going well. One of our drivers out the race. You've got Simone Maria Marchena.
Yeah, and then number 27 ends up in the pits as we see a wreck behind from Bryn Collins. But Simone, what happened there on that opening lap that sent you to the pits and unfortunately ended your main race?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to apologize everyone because I did actually I did late send. You have to take the risk in this kind of races. The car just locked up in the last meter, and that was very tight on the edge to not lock up, especially when you have a huge draft and you do late brake. I could have done, but unfortunately I collided and the car spun. Then I just tapped to the brake, and once the car was going again, I was in a 7 wide and got cocked again, and the car was done. That was unfortunate, but it is what it is.
5 more rounds of the Contender Series left. What's the rebounds now looking like as we move forward to Laguna Seca and more after this week?
Well, my preparation is not the best for this series, unfortunately, because I have to spread the preparation with another championship. And but I will do the best I can. In 2 days, I did 12 hours of practice for this round, and considered for only 2 days, I think is not bad. And also pace was almost there. So I don't know, in Laguna Seca I usually struggle a little bit. Also my teammates had very good benchmark. So it is what it is. I go forward, I move on as always, and I try to do my best, and we see.
Thanks for joining us here in the booth, Simone. Good luck in the remainder of the 5 rounds of the campaign, and hopefully we're seeing you in the Super Cup.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good to hear, Paul, from Simone Maria Marchena there. Unfortunately, 31st here in that main race. Not going to mean any points from him out of the main.
Well, I mean, you did point it out, and we're going to take a look at it in a few moments' time when we do get that ready. But the big news, just as we started talking to Simone Maria Marchena, was your sprint race winner, Bryn Collins, is out of the race. He was involved in contact, and here's the replay. So this is at the hairpin. Will Chadwick is there with him, and no, it's not contact, it's just on the power.
I don't think he had any help with that, Paul. It was just getting power down onto those wheels, that is the most difficult portion of the track to do that. Right off the hairpin, you're going so slow that you want to get the power down quick. You want to get all the force down onto the ground that you can, but the tires just end up spinning, and it ends up to a wreck like we saw from Bryn Collins, which is unfortunate for him after such a good run in the sprint. We heard how confident he was, Paul, and unfortunately not going to be a points day for him just yet. He's going to have to gain 4 spots over the course of about 1 minute on the track if he wants to end up getting any points out of the main.
Well, that's it. He has gone back out on track, it's worth pointing out, and he's down in 29th. But you never know with one of these races as we come towards the halfway point, as there was a spinner at the hairpin. I think it might have been Michael Jani who was around. But, you know, with these types of events, you can have other issues happen for drivers out there. I mean, we saw how physical that sprint race got towards the end of this main race with the big points being on offer. You never know, Josh. It could help him get back into the points and scrape a point out of it all.
We could see more incidents happen, so I do like the approach from Bryn Collins to at least get back out on the racetrack and try and salvage as much as he can, because until that checkered flag is out, your race is not over. Whatever you're racing for, you can still make it happen. As we look for the race for 23rd, that's Jani, that's Silva, Christensen, and Oliveira battling here at through the final couple of corners here at the Hockenheimring. But this battle, this is 4 points. Top 25 earned points. Oliveira right now is 3/10 outside of earning any points in the main.
And it was Oliveira, don't forget, who was facing the sideways down the runoff of turn number 1 on lap number 1. So he's doing a bit of a recovery here as Oliveira to push forward, but he's just outside of the points behind Rasmus Christensen, who himself is trying to gain places back. On board with Matti Sipola. Now, this is a driver who we saw have the incident on lap 1 in race 1 in the sprint race. He's gained 9 places so far here in this main race as we're on lap number 8. He's trying to keep moving forward in this one, but he's got a bit of a tough task. Bernard Ferreira in front of him.
Love this onboard with Matti Sipola looking back at the remainder of the field behind him as the number 92 gets closer to try and get a pass done, but can't do anything there. But looking on board with all these drivers, and we go back to now to Victor Miranda in the number 17. It's that same glazed look of focus on their eyes. These cars, these Porsche 992 Cup cars, require you to stay focused the entire race, Paul. You can't let anything past you with this car, or else you're going to end up making a very simple mistake like we saw from Bryn Collins and ending up wrecked out of the race.
Yeah, as we've seen in this race, there's no traction control, there's no ABS either on these cars, so it's all down to the driver. It's the person between the pedals and the wheel that makes the difference in these cars. Xander Reed, well, the youngster onto the brakes. You can see how they move up in the seat when they're hitting the brakes. Those brake pedals, they are really firm. Some drivers really like a really solid, hard brake pedal to really put the pressure on and control that force, whereas some like a little bit of a softer pedal, a bit more pliability. But Xander Reed, I mean, every season that I see these drivers, Josh, I always think, I'm getting a bit too old for this, really.
I think that goes the same for me, and I know our age difference, Paul. And if I'm starting to feel old seeing some of these new drivers in the Contender series, whether it's oval, dirt road, or road, I'd start to feel a little bit old and like I'm past my prime. But as we look on board with Michael Jani in the number 92, another one of our USA drivers on the track. He is racing right now to earn a little bit more points. He's got Sipola in front in 22nd. This is for 23rd. Rafael Silva and Rasmus Christensen are 24th and 25th behind the number 92. And that 25th spot is the cutoff for points. Oliveira still sits outside of that portion, but Jani can only go up from here.
As we carry on with these shots, here's Matthias Stuckbeck then, trying to get himself back on to the grid for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, and the young man from Denmark, he is keeping, again, nice focus, but relaxed as well behind the wheel. A bit warm for him, and I may recommend some air conditioning for some of these drivers, because this is something that a lot of people don't appreciate if they don't know sim racing, Josh. the physical effort that it takes, not just physical but also mental effort that it takes to compete in races like this.
The cars may be virtual, but the racing is real. As mentioning real racing, how about 3 wide into the hairpin, 2 rows deep? How are they going to make this work? They're still 3 wide, but they all get back on the track. How about the race for P17? William Chadwick at the front of this. That's Feria and Lacharte going side by side. Lucas Descartes is also in this one. And this is a hornet's nest back here at the edge of the top 20.
Will Chadwick was the runner-up in the Porsche Carrera Cup of Great Britain Esports Series, and that's how he's got himself qualified for this. The reason why the runner-up was in this series is because Sebastian Job won that championship, and well, they don't need to invite Sebastian into this Contender Series. So Will is out there, and he's getting the elbows out. He's keeping a load of hornet's nest of drivers behind right now. And it's Dalgard behind him, who's gained 8 places in this race, trying to move forward even further, although just running wide, getting a wheel into the gravel won't help Dalgard in his battle here. And look at the sim racer's lean going on there from Will into turn 1.
That's ×2. We also had Dogard there in the 5, also using a little bit of the sim racer lean. He's got the look over to the side too. You can tell he's got the triple monitor set up, and you can tell as he goes into the apex, he physically is moving his body to look over to the side. But 2 drivers and 2 very different setups as well. A lot more simpler, and looks like maybe a dorm room or a bedroom for Will Chadwick, and unfortunately a dark, blankly lit wall for Dogard there in the 5.
Yeah, we need some things in the background, little trinkets for Dalgard on his camera for next round. I think that's what we need to be seeing there. As still these 2 racing out there together and certainly enjoying themselves in this one. Now Majewski has got Lombardi and Zelensky with Sonin in the top 10, and a mistake from Majewski. This gives Lombardi the opportunity around the outside of Sachs curve. Zelensky, he wants to try and follow through here, and Altus and VRS Contender Esports going through, and Majewski's going to lose another place now to Julian Sonin. So in one little mistake going into the stadium section, that's 3 places lost.
And a little bit of damage to the front end of Bobby Zelensky's number 83 there in the Coanda colors, but now he's looking to try and chase down Dino Lombardi. Lombardi, we've seen him before in the Contender Series. We've seen him before in Porsche Esports competition. Glad to see him back here in 2023. And Bobby Zelensky behind as we sit on board with him. There's a finite number of iRacing championships that Zelensky has not competed in or tried to compete in. I'm honestly kind of surprised he didn't make an effort for the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series after his few seasons in iRacing Rallycross competition, but there's that move as we sit on board with the 83. Looks to the outside of Lombardi. He's not going to get the pass done, but he's still got the momentum heading out of the hairpin.
It's incredible the way that some drivers are able to go between different disciplines. Onto the brakes, Zelensky. That was never going to stop in time. And Sonin says, cheers, boys. That's 2 places. Zelensky loses out on that one. And Majewski gets at least 1 place back here. He's gone very defensive now with that one. And Chris Lowham is coming onto the scene around the outside into the stadium section. He's getting boxed in a little as Chris into Sachs curve, but he should have the advantage here around the hairpin. Zelensky, though, onto the power around the outside. They're still 2 wide as they sort themselves out and the exit of the stadium section into the Sud curve. Once again, we've got 6 laps to go in this race, so things are starting to heat up here. Business is picking up, Josh.
And another instance of Chris Lowham being aggressive in that number 20. We saw it in the sprint, and we just saw it again, but was a lot of positions lost for Bobby Zelensky and a lot of time lost as well to Machewski up ahead, Lombardi as well, as we look back to the three-way battle at the lead. I don't want to call it too much of a battle. 3 Apex cars, Violate, McCowan, and Parker White, as we continue now through the hairpin. Nielsen and Fenalosa rounding out that top 5.
Well, these three absolutely together for the Apex Racing team. Why don't we give you a little bit of the sights and the sounds of this race with a bit of buzz full throttle. Well, there you go, a little bit of buzz, full throttle there for you. And it's still Violate from McEwen from White at the front with Kevin Nielsen right there waiting to pounce. But a crucial thing here for you, Josh, is Lucas Dalgard, who was battling with Will Chadwick. He's now hit the instant point limit. He's served a drive-through penalty. Bernardo Ferreira as well is another driver with an instant point limit drive-through penalty. So in this main race, with it being twice the length, this is going to be a key point now for these drivers to manage those instant points.
Especially if you're getting close to the limit on incident points and might end up grabbing a drive-through penalty or a disqualification, because now that we've seen a handful of drive-through penalties, the next up for Lucas Dalgard in the 5 and anybody else grabbing drive-throughs is inevitably going to be a disqualification.
And for those of you who don't know, if you've never watched an iRacing broadcast or never competed in iRacing, incident points, you score yourself 1 incident points for every time you go off track. It's 2 instant points if you lose control of your car, and if you have heavy contact with another car, that is 4 incident points. The drivers get 17 instant points to play with until they get a drive-through penalty. So these drivers, they do need to manage that, especially with this second race, the main race being twice as long as the sprint. They've got to be careful with how close the racing has been out there, with how close the action has been out there. It's so easy to pick up those instant points, and before you know it, you're getting shown the black flag and time to head down pit road here, Josh.
Wondering how many more drivers are close to incident limit, or if anybody else has reached it and is waiting to do that drive-through penalty, as we look on board with the number 20 of Chris Lullum, still sitting about P11, looking for some more points, but he's got Job Stewart in the Altus Esports number 30 breathing down his neck as they head through the final arena section, and they'll head back to the front straightaway. And very quickly, Paul, already 3 laps remaining in this main. Still all Apex Racing team controlling the way at the front. Nobody's been able to break up that trio just yet.
Yeah, as they head across the line to start another lap then. So now's the time where I would have said that Kevin Nielsen would have been starting applying the pressure, but he's actually dropped back from the back of the leading trio. His last lap was about half a second slower, 0.8 of a second slower than Quentin Violate. So a mistake on that last lap has allowed Carlos Fenalosa to catch up to him. There you see the number 9 car, and Fenalosa, who started on pole position in this race, got an awful launch off the start of the grid. He now will be hoping to try and redeem himself a little bit and get himself at least a 4th place. Nielsen, though, you can see that gap has grown there, Josh. He's not having a fun time of it right now, is Kevin.
I can't tell if that's just his focusing face or if that is the face of a little bit of concern because he can't catch the 3 ART drivers at the front of this field. But either way, this is a good day for Kevin Nielsen. Started on the pole, so he got those qualifying points. Then he only got 2nd place in the sprint. Solid amount of points for him as well. Then 4th place here in the main. He is looking at a really, really good points day for the first round of this Contender Series.
Worth pointing out, biggest mover in the field is actually Josh Thompson, who had an awful opening sprint race. He's actually gained 15 places up to 14th here in this main race. So Josh, who of course has driven in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup before, he wants to get out there again and be able to compete. Oh, there's the number 71 running wide, and that's a mistake as we go along. So before you know it, Antoine Lacharite is going to be putting the pressure on Rafael Silva. Through turn number 1 they go again. So easy to pick up an off-track instant point there at turn number 1. Looking to the inside then. Down the inside Lacharite, and not quite getting the move done. And behind them, Reed now is getting under pressure from Pedro Oliveira.
You mentioned, Paul, more drivers getting up closer to the incident points. The latest driver to come down for a drive-through is Bernardo Feria in the 87. That puts him down to P26 as we rejoin this battle into the hairpin. The 47 and the 40 and the 21 go side by side for 22nd on the track. Rafael Silva in the 71 at the front of this group, and the 21 of Antoine Lacharette is going to hold on to the spot of Xander Reed for 22nd.
Yeah, just hanging on to that for the time being. And that's the thing with that hairpin. If you are on the outside, you can actually get a better run out of the corner because of getting onto the power that little bit earlier. The car on the inside having to have a tighter compromised line. But we're going to be starting the final lap of this opening main race in the 2023 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. And it is currently an Apex Racing team, 1, 2, 3. Quentin Violate currently leads ahead of Luke McEwen with Parker White in 3rd place. Are there any team orders here? Well, they're not allowed to, because even though they are all teammates, you are not allowed to have team orders in a championship like this. It's every driver for themselves. And Violate is feeling the need to go a little bit of weaving, a little bit defensive here from McEwen. Luke McEwen looking to the outside of the hairpin. I know Alex Simpson will be watching this through his fingers right now. He won't want to see any contact between the 3 of them. They want 3 clean murder cars at the end of this race, but what Luke McEwen wants is a win right now. And Josh, he's running out of opportunities, isn't he?
He needs to try and set up something through the final arena section, which we've talked about, Paul, is the tightest section of track here at the Hockenheimring. Can he do it? We look on board with Quentin Violate, Luke McEwen. I don't think he's going to be close enough. This is looking like a really, really solid day for Quentin Violate as 3 Apex Racing Team cars around the final couple of corners.
As we go through, you're absolutely right. Violate then at the head of the field. Just one more corner to go, the Sud curve. Out that final corner, across the line, and Quentin Violate is your race winner here in the main race. And it's an Apex Racing team, 1, 2, 3. Luke McEwen, Parker White, 2nd and 3rd. What a great day at the office for for the Apex Racing team. More drivers coming through across the line to finish their race, as Will Chadwick does end up in 17th behind Victor Miranda. A few more coming across the line, and Pedro Oliveira finishes 23rd in the end of that one, so does get himself a recovery drive back to where he finished the race. But we're going to be heading to the Buzz post-race show here on this, the opening week of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. And let's take you through your provisional race results then. And as I say, Apex Racing Team 1, 2, 3, Violate, McEwen and White, with Nielsen, Fenalosa, Stuckbeck, Sonin, Lombardi, Zelensky and Machevsky rounding out the top 10. Then in 11th place, it was Chris Lullum ahead of Joby Stewart. Lemonak with Thompson, Roma, Miranda, Chadwick, Sipila on his recovery drive, Christensen and Jani down in 20th place. In 21st, it's Silva ahead of Xander Reed and Oliveira, Neuer with Lachorette. Ferreira and Dalgard are the last of the drivers to finish on the lead lap. Those two not scoring any points. And drivers who did not finish: Alexei Nesov, Bryn Collins, your sprint race winner, did not finish. Sam Keitert, Simone Mania Marcheno and Oscar Pai are the drivers who did not finish. But we will go and hear from our winners here. And Josh, you're standing by with Quentin Violate.
Well, winner of the main race tonight, Quentin. How was that race from your perspective in the number 81?
Wow, that was very good, I would say. Yeah, unfortunately, Carlos had wheel spin on the start, so I took the lead and I tried to save my tire all over the race. But yeah, it was a really good race. P1, P2, P3 for Apex Racing team members. So yeah, we can't really get a better start of the season so far.
You grabbed the lead very early on in that race. Was that important to grabbing that main race win and getting your Apex Racing team drivers behind you?
Well, I was not expecting that Carlos took a start. So yeah, definitely getting his teammate behind you is a very good advantage, because you don't have to care about what the people behind are going to do. But I was more planning to try to overtake Carlos on the track and not on the start. So yeah, I would say that, yeah, it was a very good advantage.
5 rounds of the Contender Series remain. How does this momentum keep up for not only you, but your teammates as well at ART?
Yep. Well, we'll just keep pushing and we'll see what the next round of the next round are going to do. That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations on the main race win, Quentin. Quentin Violate gets your main race win, and we transition over to second place finisher Luke McCowan, again for Apex Racing Team. And Luke, your overall thoughts on the Hockenheimring? We start the Super Cup, we start the Contender Series, start the qualifying series, all here in virtual Germany.
Yeah, I mean, track's pretty good. Can be a bit hectic at the start, as we saw, going into the hairpin and T2. You know, cold tires, cold brakes can definitely cause some shunts, but you know, it's a good track. Obviously, we enjoyed it, getting a 1, 2, 3 there.
Yeah, we heard Quentin's thoughts on running with your teammates, but on and off the track, working with the teammates leading up to this race, how was it to race against them and be controlling the field at the front, 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, I mean, we had really good prep this week with all of us. Managed, because we've got 4 people, we can do a good amount of test races, work out what to do and what not to do with overtaking and running in a pack. And yeah, like I said, obviously it's worked, you know, 1, 2, 3 in the feature. So yeah, really happy.
You earned a really good result in the sprint, of course, on the podium here in the main race in second. How do you keep up this momentum for 5 more rounds of the Contender Series?
Basically just keep doing what we're doing, getting a lot of laps in, working together. And I guess we'll analyze this race and see what we can improve on for next week.
Great work. Great work today, Luke. Congratulations on your second place finish. And Parker White ends up in his first impressions of the Contender Series, walking away on the podium. And Parker, first time here in the Contender Series for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. What were your impressions of racing out there, especially with your Apex Racing Team teammates?
Yeah, it went a lot better than I thought it would. I thought I was right in the middle of where all the carnage was going to be, but luckily I was able to avoid all of it. And in the main race, I started in P5. Then Fenellosa on the front row spun his tires, was able to get by him in T1. Then Sam had a crash, so I was able to get through to get P3 behind Luke and Quentin. So basically just managing the tires the rest of the race and just making sure I keep the car clean. And we were able to do that, and everyone was able to keep their pace nice. We were able to get a good gap there to Kevin there at the end, and then we were able to bring it home 1, 2, 3.
Overall, we know the differences between the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series and the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, but what are the main differences in preparation and leading up to through the qualifying series and the Contender Series versus prepping for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season?
For PESC, it's more of just finding what the Q strat is for basically the last 3 days of the race. We want to get a good idea of what we need to do, and the setup work is basically done very early on. There's so much you can do to the setup, so it's basically just finding the pace, just comparing off each other. Then for the Coke series, there's obviously a lot more in the setup that we can do, so it's a lot more setup work over there that we need to do instead of over here at PESC.
2 solid finishes from you today in the sprint and the main. Is this a good sign for you in the remainder of the Contender Series?
Yeah, definitely. Going into this race, I just wanted a decent finish to get me a good spot in points, and this is basically the best I could have wished for. So just looking forward to next week and the rest of the season.
Congratulations to you and the rest of your Apex Racing team teammates as well on a really solid finish here in the main. That is your podium finishers, Quentin Violate, Luke McCowan, and Parker White. All of Apex Racing Team Paul, and all of them taking home a solid points day as we take a look at our standings heading into round 2 at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, it's Premislav Lemonek who's the one on the bubble. The top 15 will get themselves to qualify to be able to compete in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup in 2024. And, well, it is Lemonek who's on the bubble. But Nielsen, well, what a day for him. 1 point lead in the championship ahead of Violate. But really, for all these drivers, it's just all about getting in the top 15.
There's not a lot of time left, Paul, but there still is a good amount of time. With 5 rounds remaining, it's going to go by quick, but you still got a lot of opportunities to get those points, and that starts next week at WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. I'm looking forward to round number 2 of this campaign and heading over to the USA side of things.
Yeah, head on over to Monterey County for the second week of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. That's going to be the end of the Buzz post-race show. And, well, what an entertaining evening of racing action we saw here today. Congratulations to the winners of Bryn Collins and Quentin Violate. But it's Kevin Nielsen who leads the pack. Until next time, we'll see you then. Goodbye.